Hi, this is Dave, Fell Running Guide. Welcome to this week's map reading task. This week we're in Eryri, Snowdonia, and I've got a photograph with a feature highlighted on it. So it's this stream bend here in the yellow circle, and I simply want to know whereabouts on the map that feature is and what elevation is it. And then can you work out where I was stood when I took the photograph? The map that we're using this week is the Harvey's Superwalker 1:25,000 scale. And I've asked Harvey's if I can use their map extracts for these tasks. So somewhere on there is what we are looking at. Let's have a look in a bit more detail at that photo. What can we see? Well, I'm obviously stood on very steep ground, looking down a steep slope. We can see in the valley bottom, can just make out some buildings. There's a road or a track going along here. And then up the other side, key feature is this lake or llyn, as it is in Wales or Welsh, stream coming down out of that. And then some high rocky ground all the way around that. High ground here, high ground here. We can imagine this peak here with a bowl around it. So imagine a scoop taken out there, and then a similar feature there. And we're looking for this stream that drains down, and we're looking for an obvious kink in the stream there. If we're coming up from below, we'd see one kink in the stream there, and then we're looking for the second stream kink there. So does any of that make sense on the map? Let's have a look. So we've got a couple of llynns that we can look at. We've got this main one down here, right down in the valley bottom by the road. It's not that one because it was halfway up the hillside, so it's one of these two. Now the problem we've got is that we were looking at the photograph from over on this side of the valley, looking across to the south, but the map is orientated the other opposite way round, so it can be a bit tricky. So let's have a go at spinning that map round or orientating it. I'll put an explanation video in the top right hand corner up here if you're not quite sure what I mean by that. Okay, so hopefully that makes it a little bit easier, because on the photograph we are looking down across the valley bottom and up the other side with the lake on our left. So now we're somewhere over here looking across the valley bottom with the lake on our left. We've got to decide whether we're looking at that one or this one. So let's see if we can work that out. Well, if we look right at the bottom of the photograph, we can see some buildings here on a road or a track, and if we go along there's another building there, and these buildings pretty much line up with that lake or llyn there. So to the photograph, if we look in the valley bottom, we've got some buildings here. So if they were to line up with the lake, then we couldn't be looking at this one because that would put us over here somewhere lower down. So we're on high ground, so it makes sense that we're over here somewhere looking over these buildings towards that Llyn Idwal there, and then that other building there. See that little black dot? Let me just zoom in. That there on the track, that is this building here. So we've got Llyn Idwal. So if we, now that we know that, we can identify this high ground to the right. just see a bit of a path coming down there, and we're looking for this obvious stream on the right hand side. So let's have a look. I'll zoom in again a little bit more for us. So there's the lake. Here is the high ground, around the back of the lake, and then another bowl or corrie or coombe here with the ground dropping down. There is our little building, so we're looking for the stream to the right of it. And if we come up from the track, then we've got the first kink there, so we're looking for that kink there. See that? Our change of direction. So stream coming up, one kink to the right and the second one. So what elevation is that? That's the next question. So on Harvey maps, the contours go up in 15-metre intervals. We can see that here. Every fifth contour is slightly thicker. That's an index contour, and we can see that the elevation from one index contour to the next one is 75 meters, so 600 meters, 675 meters, which means that each one of these contours is 15 meters. So now that we know that, we've got to work out what the elevation is here at our feature. Let me zoom in a little bit more. So we can see at this point here, that bend in the stream is pretty much on an index contour. It's on this one here. So we have to work out what elevation this index contour is. Well, if we look down here, we've got the 375 contour that goes all the way around Llyn Idwal, comes back out here and around to there. And our contour is the next index contour up, so it's got to be 75 meters above 375, which is 450. So the elevation there is 450. And then finally, where was I when I took the photograph? Well, that's a bit harder to work out. We're definitely above this water here. We can see it. And it feels like we're actually looking down slightly onto that our feature, so we know we've got to be above 450 meters, but we're below the mountain summits up here. So where does that put us? Well, let's just zoom a little bit. So if we count up the contours from the valley bottom, well, we can count up from the valley bottom. This contour here, the bold one around Llyn Ogwen, is 300, which means the next one is 375. The next one is 450. That's the same height as our feature on the opposite side of the valley, so we've got to be above that. Next one is 525, and I was slightly above that, just on this slight flattening here. So the photo was taken from this point here, looking over to our feature, the bend in the stream there, which was on the 450 contour. So a bit easier than last week. I know a lot of people struggle with last week's task, so a bit easier this week. Hope you got it right. Thanks for watching. Look out for next week's map reading task. Bye for now.